Thanks very much. Sounds like a bit of an echo here tonight. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, August 25th to order. Before I start, it's an honor to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people, represented by the Songhees and Concepcion nations. We're grateful to live, work, and play in this special place. There is a minor, on the approval of the agenda, there is a minor amendment to tonight's agenda. I'm moving item 6.4 from the consent agenda to new business as item 7.2. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt today's amended council agenda and receive the near and long-term agenda. Thank you very much, Councillor Olson. Councillor Ward, discussion? Seeing none, any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, this is different. It's echoey, isn't it? Yeah. I'll stand, I'll sit back here. Oh. Oh, I didn't.
I don't know which bit makes
Testing, 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 testing. Testing. Okay. Sounds pretty loud. Okay, that's fine. I'll just sit back here. Okay, just Mayor's message. I just have a few things to say tonight. Just want to welcome back the public and all council from the summer recess. Hope everybody had a relaxing time with their family and friends. We're in for a very busy fall session. Second item, I just want to remind council and the public that they're invited to the City of Colwood Volunteer Night. That's August 30th, this upcoming Saturday in the Music in the Park, which I believe is in Meadow Park, correct? Right. And that's from 5:30 to 7:30. We expect at least 8 of our own community volunteer groups will be attending, and we'll have tables and information on if you want to join and become a volunteer. Please join the event if you can. The third thing is I would just like to inform the public on the good news side that the Galloping Goose overhead bridge is back underway, and the construction is back on site. There'll be 2 full nighttime closures on Soup Road. We want to minimize any disruption to the business traffic during the day. So on Wednesday, August 26th or 27th, from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., the Soup Road will be closed there. And similarly on Friday, August 30th, from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. to minimize business traffic disruption. We're still hoping to complete by the end of August or December of this year, maybe, right? So, okay. So it's back on track. That's all I can say. It's great news. The last thing I just wanted, I saw this, I'm taking this from Facebook right now. We had quite a few issues, and people have written into council or called about the speed wash and the noise it was making, unbeknownst to people on council. We didn't realize this was a 24/7 operation. And I guess it's pretty spectacular. It's like Las Vegas when you go down there during the evening. So we've got them to change the hours of operation to just so not to disrupt the neighbors. So there's some new hours that have been posted now, and we'll see how that goes. And on that note, can I get a mover and seconder for the adoption and receipt of the minutes under section 4.1 of the agenda? Okay, Councillor Grove and Councillor Olson. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. At this point in time, we shall open it up to public participation. No written submissions have been received prior to the agenda publication. And we had one written submission that was received after agenda publication and will be appended to the agenda tomorrow. There was another submission that we received about 20 minutes before noon today, I believe. And it has to be reviewed. We just didn't get the opportunity to review it yet. So therefore, it's not, won't be appended. It may have to be, some things may have to be deleted on it. There are no members of public that have been registered to speak virtually. And at this point in time, I'd like to invite the public to come up during public participation.
Press here to speak.
So if I can stick you.
Test. There we go.
Yeah. I can get you to just say your name and where you live in Holland.
For sure. Thank you very much for taking this time to hear us out here. My name is Aaron Mills. This is Deanna Mills. We live at 755 Cecil Blog Drive. It was me today that emailed the little clip of the car wash, and it was what I'm here to talk about. I have a bit of a spiel about how loud it is and the crazy noises that it makes all night, and it's pretty ridiculous. But now hearing that you guys have been able to put some pressure on them to change things, I want to just say thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for reaching out to us and letting us know that you're looking at it, because it's crazy. I'm a first-time NIMBY. This is the first time I've done this, and it was just like I couldn't believe like what was happening. And we're down in Colwood Creek Park, and we were talking to the neighbors of the dog park today, and everyone was just like, "What is going on?" So thank you very much. We appreciate it greatly, and whatever you can do to kind of keep it wrapping up early. I used to do construction back in the day, and I knew it was 7 o'clock, have those tools wrapped up and the compressors off. So if we could maybe make a compromise and they could look at something like that, it would be really appreciated. I think you get a lot of support from neighborhood and us as well.
And it was, I'll give credit where credit's due. I know staff were on them all because we received a bunch of emails this morning. And, but I'll admit that the owners were voluntarily changed. So, there's a lot of goodwill on their part. So I'll give them the.
I went down and talked to the manager today, and he was, they're getting a new business started. He had a lot on his mind, but they were open to doing stuff. And he was he said he was surprised at how much of a disruption it was. But he also mentioned that he was there working at 1 a.m. on Friday. And, so he knows that, it's pretty loud.
So it's a real light show, is it?
It's not even the lights. For us, it's the sound. So we're kind of in a little depressed area, and they've got these, so you get your car washed, and as you drive through, it's got the high pressure blowers. They've got these crazy turbines that start out that literally are like, whoop, whoop, and it's an alarm sound. Like it's a sound you're made to acknowledge as like danger. So you wake up in the middle of the night, and you're like, okay, it's fine. It's just a car wash, and then you sit there and you're just like, ugh. And then it can go off again. Like it's every wash, and it's a 3-minute cycle. So it can go off every 3 minutes, or at 1 o'clock and then 4 o'clock. And it's kind of just enough that you don't know when it's coming. Then it does come. And fortunately, we can sleep in our basement to avoid it, which we have been for the last few nights, but that's kind of not really sustainable. The livability is kind of getting.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Okay,
Have a good night.
Anyone else, please?
Well, that's not going to move. There it is. All right. Evening. My name is Gordon Rossander, and for the last 23 years, I've lived at the bottom at 564 Carindale Road, bottom of the hill. Now, what I'm about to say is probably nothing new, but what I am going to say, I do want it on record. On Friday, August 22nd, between the hours of 8:30 and 0900, and then again at 1600 to 1630, I stood at the end of my driveway and observed a total of 67 cars going above the speed limit, which is posted at 30 kilometers an hour. Every vehicle that I observed, I took a picture of, and they were traveling anywhere between 50 and 90 kilometers an hour. Subsequently, I would like to add that it are not just vehicles that are going at this speed. Bicycles and skateboards are speeding excessively down this road without due care and attention. During times that I've traveled either up or down Carindale, I've had vehicles tailgate, honk their horns, and even pass on the left-hand side of me, okay, between myself and the so-called speed sensation devices that you have just by Willowdale Road there. Over the years, the amount of speed and traffic using the road has increased exponentially. Vehicles now race up and down Carindale Road to get to Veterans or to Wishart. On occasions, I've had to contact the RCMP, to which they've attended and ticketed numerous vehicles. And quite some time ago, the residents of Carindale, we continuously petitioned the city to have some type of speed sensation device on Carindale Road. The consensus of the residents of Carindale was that we would like speed bumps, and we were told that was not feasible because the Colwood Fire Department uses Carindale Road more or less as a thoroughfare, and they can't have speed bumps on that road. So the city, with its infinite wisdom, decided to create two small meridians by, again, Willowdale Crescent. Sorry, I'm over my time limit. Does that matter? I got about another minute and a half here.
I'll give you another minute.
Okay,
I won't even go to council and ask their permission.
thank you very much. And these two meridians have had absolutely no effect on any type of speed. And in fact, the signage on these meridians has had to be replaced a couple of times because cars are driving over top of them. Colwood has now installed a speed sign at the bottom of the hill on Carindale, warning traffic of their speed again, which has unfortunately not decreased any speed or traffic for what it was intended for. Carindale is a residential road filled with families and children who use this road to walk and travel, and now my own grandchildren are playing in my front yard. With the school year now approaching only days away, Carindale again will be filled with students coming and going to the school, and as residents of Carindale Road, we hope to ensure the preservation of life. As such, I am requesting Colwood Council to construct some other form of physical traffic calming sensation devices within the next 3 to 6 months. Due to the increased negligence of certain drivers using Carindale Road, it's not a matter of if, but when a serious injury or fatality will now occur. As such, I'm putting council on notice. Tonight, you're made aware of a serious and potential deadly situation that is on the doorstep. Should anybody or the council decide just to disregard what I'm asking or what I'm looking or talking about, when there is an injury or fatality on Carindale Road, I will ensure that those responsible are held fully accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, do you take note of that one, please? Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing none, I will close this portion of public participation. And we'll go on to item 6, which is the consent agenda. Just want to remind everybody, items in this section may be voted on with one motion. Any member may make a request to remove any item for the purpose of individual debate or discussion. We've already moved 6.4 to 7.2. Okay, seconder, please. Okay, Councilor Grove, discussion. Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. And we'll get to item 7, which is new business. And we'll start off with Councilor Ward, designation of Metchosin Road widening as top priority transportation infrastructure project. So I have to do this. I'm going to request someone. I'll make the motion that we suspend the rules of order for this item, because normally you'd have to have the presentation a week before, just so that you know. But I'm just going to request that we just suspend that. We would suspend the rules of order on this, and we just proceed. Can I get a seconder? Okay, Councilor Day. Any opposed? Seeing none, I'll just go on.
Can I just speak to that?
Mhm.
Just, we do have this recorded as a notice of motion on the previous council meeting, so I think it's appropriate that Councillor Ward motivate as he sees fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually am going to hand it over to Councilor Ward at this time, because the motion has been made, and I will ask Councilor Ward to, actually what I'm going to do is Councilor Ward has made the motion. I'm going to ask for a seconder so we can get into discussion on this. Can I get a seconder, please? Okay, Councillor Olson. Okay, we'll open it up for discussion. Councillor Ward, if you want to motivate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm tangled in some wires here, so that'll give staff a chance to get that PowerPoint up here. I did put together a brief PowerPoint, not so much as a presentation, more so as speaking notes to motivate. This is a fairly lengthy motion for those that have read it, and there's a lot that goes into it as well. This is not, a very simple piece here. So if we could skip to the next slide to the background. So the Transportation Master Plan, or TMP as I'll refer to it, was developed in 2015. And I've indicated that that was absent significant data. And that is a conscious choice to indicate it that way. Data-driven decision-making wasn't as perhaps it's common at that point, although in theory it's not that long ago, but we lacked traffic modeling that that really provided us a clear picture of what the future traffic needs of Colwood look like. At that time, it's also important to note, and actually Councillor Day could elucidate on this matter at some point, but the plan at that point, up until that point, was to widen Metchosin Road. That was acknowledged as the primary arterial route through South Colwood, but because of cost pressures and things, moved away from that, and it became somewhat easier to point to Latoria up to VMP as sort of the new route du jour to have traffic egress from Colwood. By definition, in the TMP as it stands today, Metchosin Road is defined as an arterial road. The definition is intended for longer distance regional mobility and to facilitate higher vehicle speeds. So already we see the contradiction with the definition of Metchosin Road and the way it looks today. Metchosin, unlike VMP, is fed by other arterials. So you've got Latoria Road designated as an arterial that feeds onto it with significant volumes of commuter traffic heading down Latoria to Metchosin to make that turn and head towards Victoria. You've got Metchosin itself as an arterial that comes from, well, Metchosin. And you've got collector roads at Carindale and Wishart, folks coming down from even bordering on VMP to accelerate pretty quickly down Wishart in the morning, down Carindale to join Wishart and to join Metchosin and take the point of least resistance out to Soup Road. You've also got folks coming up from Lagoon and from other local designated streets like Painter and eventually a significant volume of traffic that will be joining Metchosin Road from Beachlands. And as I mentioned, that initial plan to widen Metchosin was abandoned because of cost pressures. We'll go to the next slide, please. So some key considerations. We know that projected vehicle traffic from Metchosin Road already exceeds projections. The numbers have exceeded what folks in 2015 thought would occur. And those pressures were exacerbated by density increases. So we know the last meeting of the previous council before this council took office, the Beachlands density was tripled and no amendment was made to the transportation master plan at that time. So we fundamentally changed the volume of people that would live in Royal Bay Beachlands area without even examining the impact that it would have on traffic planning. Subsequent to that, we also have to own that we've increased density in Royal Bay moderately with some of the planning that we've done. So the numbers have grown and they've grown considerably. And then I would draw attention to what I view as an overemphasis on mode shift versus facilitation of vehicular traffic. And this speaks to ideology. Throughout the TMP, it talks about moving people out of vehicles, getting them on bikes, getting them on transit. We are not Victoria. I certainly understand the mindset that drives that, but we are well behind a dense urban area like Victoria or Vancouver, where that's the logical route to take. There was no survey in 2015 conducted of Colwood residents to determine if that's the approach they wanted to take. So again, this becomes a political or ideological decision. Next slide, please. So when we analyze the commuting impact, so what does it look like for commuters? And I know I've commuted for many years from Colwood. I commute part-time on a hybrid work arrangement where I go into town. So when you leave from Metchosin and Latoria Crossroad at that intersection, which realistically could be used as a jump off point for almost everybody in Latoria North, Latoria South, and eventually, of course, the Beachlands, you've got two main routes to choose from. You've got the Transportation Master Plan designated route, which would be Latoria to VMP out to Souk Road. And then you've got the most direct route, the route that the vast majority of my neighbors take, which is Metchosin to Souk Road. So if you're analyzing that distance from there to Helmicken Overpass, which is a logical point because from there you're either going downtown or you're going up towards the university or out to Saanich, you know, you're looking at 13.7 K on the TMP route and you're looking at 9.4 K on the direct route. 21 minutes versus 12 minutes. And what does that translate to? Well, if you do the calculations, you're looking at 70 more hours annually spent in your car, 2,021 kilometers per year of additional driving, and over $300 in fuel if you look at roughly $1.60 a liter. Now, when you times that by 10,000 residents, I mean, you could argue that that's an excessive number. You could argue that that's conservative. Either way, you're looking at 202,100 liters of fuel being used over the year to reach the same endpoint with the two plans. So let's jump ahead to the next slide. So I question whether or not it's a flawed approach. Again, and that's not a criticism of the staff we have here today. This plan was developed in 2015, as I said, absent the traffic modeling that we have access to now. In conversation with individuals who are involved in that planning, the adjective changes, but the intent was the same. The description has been used that we are going to force people up Latoria to VMP to exit Colwood. That was softened to say, well, we're going to push them up Latoria to exit Colwood. And, you know, in my inquiry, well, how are we going to do that? Well, it's the idea was, well, let's make it difficult to go down Metchosin. It's the natural instinct of everybody, as we see today, to go along Metchosin Road. So let's make it harder for them. Let's restrict that. And the first phase of that, really, even inadvertently, was the sidewalk planning that was implemented at the top of the Metchosin Hill, because now you've restricted it to 2 lanes. The reasoning becomes, well, we don't want to change this because we spend a lot of money on this. And McElhaney in April 22nd, 2001, when they were on this project, added the notes that you can see at the bottom there, that this widening of this cross-section wasn't considered. And their words, I think, are here important. Even though most of the intersections along the corridor, that's the Metchosin corridor, north of the sites, exceeded desired performance threshold. So they've clarified that widening Metchosin Road was considered inconsistent with Colwood's design objectives. You know, they were encouraged to look at VMP. So even though it made sense to them, it was a logical approach to take, they had no choice but to follow along with this outdated TMP. So I'll move forward one more slide here. Now, I've been beating this drum for, sadly, years now. And I think the concern for me is that we have some misleading data interpretation out in public. So when I go to Let's Talk Colwood even today, there's 2 scenarios inferred. It indicates, and this is verbatim, you know, results suggested that widening only Metchosin Road or Latoria Road would not adequately address traffic demand, while widening all 3 major corridors is cost prohibitive. Understand that. The Taj Mahal version we saw in the traffic modeling was to widen everything. And we know that's not feasible. But what still sticks out to me this day was the secondary option that council asked to dig into a little bit more, which clearly demonstrated that widening Metchosin, the north-south route, VMP, the other north-south route, with a slight modification to Souk Road, was the optimal scenario. What was really interesting to me as well was that widening Latoria really didn't have a lot of impact. You could have widened it to 3 lanes to allow for, you know, left and right turn lanes from Byzantin, the traffic light at Wishart to facilitate those. But the idea of 4 lanes on Latoria was not supported by data. And yet this optimal scenario doesn't appear. The fact that there's little or any discernible benefit from widening Latoria up to VMP just seems to have disappeared into the ether. And I find that concerning. I jump forward one more here. So the questions will come up about viability, and it's mentioned on Let's Talk Colwood. The cost is prohibitive to widen Metchosin. And that was the original reason, obviously, that it was moved off, is that, you know, there were costs involved. But those costs presume that we are going to use the TMP cross sections and design to widen Machosen. There is room, as Councillor Grove next to me mentioned at a different context, to use creativity here, to use innovation, to determine, does this have to be the cross section? I won't run through all the math for you here, but if we were to amend some of these cross sections, you can support 3 lanes at 3.7 meters on Machosen Road without having to buy additional property or expropriate property from homeowners. There is a way. And I've used the expression, you can have your cake and eat it too. I'm not pro bike lane. I'm not anti bike lane. I'm about moving people efficiently and safely. And I believe in Colwood, we have the right of way and the road widths, if we're creative, that we can accomplish those goals. You know, the way it stands right now, you are dedicating 67% of the corridor space to serve 5.5% of traffic. How is that logical? Again, it comes back to ideology versus people. The last slide, please. So this is the last slide, just to provide a visual. This is a picture I took on Saturday at a farmer's market in Saanich, the one on the right. That's a cross-section similar to Machosen. 3 lanes, 1 lane in the middle to facilitate left and right turns, an entry and exit. It has protected bike lanes using their Kerplunk system on the right, which we've used along Painter Road. And relatively easy. Now, there's room to be more creative and fancy it up. You could have boulevards and planters down sections in the middle. There's other things you can do aesthetically to make it more appealing. And the diagram on the left kind of gives you an indication of what that looks like. But it is possible. And I think I would just leave it with the fact that we know an update to the transportation master plan has been in the works. It's been referenced for years now. We are really going into the last year of a 4-year term, operating under a plan that was rendered almost obsolete in sections, as I go back to what I said about the density change, on day 1 of this council's mandate. And I think it's high time we demonstrate to residents of Colwood that it isn't just about adhering to a plan because it allows us to rubber stamp what looks good. It's about doing what's right for our residents, which is to move people towards their destination, which is Victoria. The one piece I would add is that I've been criticized when I say, well, traffic, people will go Machosen. It's the path of least resistance. It's like water flowing down a hill. That's the direction they'll go. Oh, no. We can change that. We can move them up Latoria. The greatest example we have is right here in Colwood. When you look at Highway 14, where it becomes Souk Road at VMP, that was designed, in theory, to have everybody commuting from Souk coming towards town to turn left onto VMP, travel through Langford and join the highway at a later stage. People don't do that. Human behavior is human behavior. They continue straight forward on a Souk Road and they form the Colwood Crawl. And our current plan asks people to enter that Colwood Crawl at a point way further back than they would if we did the right thing and moved them along Machosen. That's what I have, and the rest is up to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Oh, Councillor Day, we'll start off with you.
Thank you. I just want to speak to the history. So that is really loud. I'm loud anyways. So between the two of us, I can just add that the transportation master plan document was done as quickly as possible back in 2015 to provide us with a template of what we're looking for that was standardized. And it has served some purposes well. It has allowed us to, where development takes place, to acquire sufficient property to potentially achieve that vision that would allow us to do what we were trying to do at the time, which was elevate our active transportation, which had been literally non-existent up until that point, pretty much in Colwood. We didn't have sidewalks, we didn't have bike lanes. We were lucky if you had a decent shoulder on the road to ride to. And it was also about providing that as a preferred way of life, that we wanted our kids to be able to ride their bikes to school, to walk on sidewalks to get to school, and take some of the congestion out. That's a big goal. With the development that has been approved in Colwood, we have some real challenges in order to achieve a good transportation system that will accommodate all users. And so there's going to be some choices that we need to make. At the time when we stopped considering widening Machosen Road from Souk Road to Wishart Road, we had two competing projects on our books, one to Wishart Road and one further down between Sangster School and Dunsmuir School to achieve greater safety there, especially because there was a lot of children walking to and from both of those schools and connecting between those schools. So I think it's unfortunate, but based on grants that we did or did not receive, we chose to prioritize safety around the schools. In hindsight, I wish we had done that a little bit differently, given the large increases in density that we are realizing now. In the last year, Colwood is growing faster than Langford has been growing, which is a new thing for Colwood. And I think it's really important that we create roads that are functional and will support the traffic. One of the big problems that I see coming with the greater densities and more congestion on Machosen Road is that it doesn't take very much for those lights and those intersections to back up and make it so that that is an even less useful road space. And we certainly don't want that to happen and impede important services getting through our community, like ambulances and fire trucks. So I do support a proper corridor study and preliminary design. And it's really critical to me that that study and that design include proper survey work so that we can see exactly what size corridor we are working within and what we would need to acquire. Because the entire 2015 TMP was done without any actual data on our actual road right-of-ways throughout the city. It was a good step, but it needs the proper data in order for us to make decisions that are in the best interest of the community.
Thank you very much, Councillor Day. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate Councillor Ward bringing this bold motion forward. Machosen Road is absolutely critical for Colwood residents, and we know congestion and safety issues are top of mind. I'd like to see us support a corridor study as a priority with widening and improvements considered alongside impacts, costs, and consultation. I guess my concern or question is the chicken or the egg, I guess. We've got this TMP that's slugging along, and I'm just not sure if we need to, if the recommendation needs to be made to moving up the completion of the transportation master plan updates so that can be done before making this amendment, or to avoid locking into one priority prematurely, or if we should be, I don't know, but doing them at the same time. That's one concern I had. The other thing too is that I wonder if there's a possibility that there may be an opportunity to leverage partnerships with the province or BC Transit, given the corridor's regional significance. I mean, it is an arterial road, and so there might be some options there as well. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jordison. I will go to Mr. Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I was speaking with staff this morning, and the intention is to bring forward a report on September the 8th to Council outlining the transportation master plan process so that it meets Council's expectations in terms of being able to deal with this request and the other components that go along with it. Given where we're at where we are at in this calendar year and next calendar year to make sure that it's meeting council's expectations to be able to address these sorts of things. So the intention is to have a report on your next agenda with that timeline so that we can meet council's expectation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Councillor Grove?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that answered my question directly, and we do need a plan. We need an overall plan. We need a big plan, covers all the roads and all the traffic issues we're dealing with are to be exasperated as the time comes, and Royal Bay and Beachlands will fill out. And before we know it, we're going to have demand in every inch of the corner of the city. So I'm looking forward to the report on September 8th.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jensen?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to Councillor Ward for bringing this forward. I have a difficult time preempting any outcome that flows from the Transportation Master Plan. I know it seems to be like the unicorn that we can't seem to get a hold of, but am I understanding what you're saying is on September 8th, we're gonna get a plan that's gonna tell us what the plan?
I don't know if I'd characterize it that way, but the way I would characterize it is, here's the plan to have the transportation master plan completed. Here's the timeline. Does that meet council's expectation so that you can make these decisions? We understand, and I've heard from council since the beginning of my time that I started here, that TMP is an important project. And in fact, it's probably the #1 project. And that's why when we were discussing this with staff this morning, that we wanted to make sure that that timeline reflects what council wants, given the expectations that there are in completing the plan.
Thank you. And, I understand the frustration. We're here sitting waiting for this, and I understand it's not an insignificant task, and I can appreciate that. But, there does come a time when we do want to move forward with individual projects like this, and absent a finished TMP, we're in a difficult position to really take a decision. So I can think of a couple of things that we've kind of pushed down the road a little bit in lieu of this plan. As far as a corridor study, I'm assuming that a corridor study, whatever that might be, other than what it sounds like, is going to be a part of this TMP. This isn't something else that we have to activate or do.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. We wouldn't do a corridor study as part of the TMP process. That would be a separate entity that might be derived from the TMP process.
I gotcha. Thanks.
And if I can just maybe add one further part of clarification. We're speaking with the planning department about the MR1 zone, which was the zone to be implemented along Machosen Road to potentially impact developments and redevelopments. But was that zone actually corrected, or was that zone created based on what council's expecting to happen along Machosen Road with what we have with the right of way? Does that land use support what could be potentially happening there? So that's one of the areas that we're going to be coming back to council with, is what do you want to see for land use along Machosen Road in conjunction with the transportation master plan so that they come together? I'm not sure that council's provided that direct feedback in terms of what you see that vision is and what the public expects along there for land use as well. So we're trying to coordinate all of this together so that it's not piecemeal, it's not one plan and another plan. But that certainly is something that we're looking at as, what does the housing stock look like? What does the minimum parcel size look like? What does the frontage look like? Because if this is a major thoroughfare, how do we get access to new development that happens along Machosen Road? Is that what ultimately council wants?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordison?
Sorry, it's fine. I just wanted to say again, I appreciate that we're bringing a report back September 8th, but we've seen this plan. I can tell you what this plan is with my eyes closed because I know it so well. And I don't know for my council colleagues, but it doesn't meet my expectations because it's taking too long. There's too many things happening. We're spending too much of taxpayers' money doing things and then having to redo them. And it's not the right way to do things. We need to have this plan hashed out or in a timely manner. So, and I think that, I think Councillor Ward's, Machosen Road needs to be part of it. So I'm just, I thank you for for bringing the report forward, but I just think it's just taking too long. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna jump to Councillor Olson, it's your first time, sorry I missed you.
No, that's okay. I'll keep it brief. I think I just wanted to state this council's had a lot of time to think about the TMP and specifically about Machosen Road. And I think we all can agree that it's a very complicated, many layers to Machosen. But I really appreciate Councillor Ward bringing this forward. And I definitely would like to see that this road is a priority. One thing that's not been clear is what the cost implications are to taxpayers. You know, from widening it obviously to three roads to four, or sorry, 3 lanes to 4 lanes, we're looking at some significant cost. And I think that we have asked for that. And I think that it would be, you know, in September, it would be ideal to see kind of a cost breakdown of what it would realistically look like to make any big changes to Machosen. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Day for the second time.
Thank you. I had hoped to have been complete at this point in time. I don't like to speak too many times. But I have to say that bringing the planning and land use for the Machosen Road corridor into it just meant that I could not let this go. It is really important to plan not just pie in the sky what you'd like to build, but to actually figure out how you will service what we can potentially build. And the sewer line does not run down Machosen Road. The sewer line runs down Wishart Road. And it has some significant limitations, which are coming up very quickly. I would hazard a guess that we are at about 70% of our capacity in the CRD by this year's numbers, which aren't in yet, but they will be in soon. And the rate of our development is not being very clearly described to our residents. My best estimate, based on both the CRD's website and the city's website, is that we are currently developing, at least for 24 and 25, at around 600 units per year. And we don't have those numbers very easily because we're only counting sewer connections, not counting how many units are serviced by that single connection. It could be 80, it could be 1, it could be 5, it could be 15. And I'm very frustrated with trying to represent the citizens of Colwood in this atmosphere of we can build anything anywhere and we don't need to think about how we're going to service it. Is very important to me that we do it right and provide, because otherwise we are going to just be heading down this road of God knows what our tax increases are going to be in order to accomplish it. Because the one thing I know for absolute certain is that when you're in that sewer system, and it's not just for the benefit of people who are not on sewers, it's for the benefit of everyone, that we know what our future holds. And when you sign up for sewer, you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. That's just the way it is. If they need something more, we're going to build it. And there is no known quantity for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll let you speak a second, and then I'll summarize. Go ahead, Councilor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to bookend my motion by simply stating this, that, you know, in 2022, I ran for council in support of initiatives from others like yourself, Mr. Mayor. Healthcare was identified as a key priority in Colwood, and we've done great work addressing that. Safety is a key priority. I think we've ensured that we've paid a great deal of attention to supporting our fire department, the RCMP, looking at other elements of safety within our parks and road networks. The other one was transportation and moving people. It was apparent to me and many of those folks who supported me to run for council that we look at transportation in a hard way. We knew there was no data behind the 2015 plan. This was known from folks who have been here much longer than I have. We are now in 2025. We are going to meet in September to hear about a plan, to tell us about a plan, which will come at some future point, which is intricately linked to the active transportation plan, to land use and planning. We are going to obfuscate and kick this down the road until this council term ends, and then it will now fall to the next council to continue to address the real problems that Colwood commuters face today, that they face yesterday. This isn't a tomorrow problem. I deal with this daily. It's lived experience. So do my neighbors, so do many other people. The time to act is now. And yes, we can plan. We can plan for the entire community. We can look at every road cross section. We can look at every back alley, every laneway. We can go over that plan with a fine tooth comb time and time again until we're certain that it's absolutely right. But by then, the numbers will have changed again. The needle will have moved forward again. But we'll be happy because we have the best darn plan, and maybe we'll get an award at UBCM or something cool. You know, and it's untenable to me that this is one of the top issues for people. It drives people crazy. They lose valuable time with their families. You know, it incurs significant costs, and we're prepared to just punt it forward. And I wouldn't suggest it or be so vehement about it if it was purely emotion based. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We have the data. I know the majority of staff and council in this room have sat through multiple presentations on the traffic modeling. We've seen what needs to happen. There is no argument that says we need to wait and just widen Latoria to 4 lanes and do VMP. Metchosin Road under every scenario was clearly a priority. Metchosin Road is also the only artery that entirely serves Colwood, with the notable exception of some folks coming from Metchosin. Widening VMP doesn't even serve Colwood to anywhere near the same degree. It serves South Langford and the significant growth that's happening in South Langford. 70% of the traffic turning onto there is Langford traffic. The mayor himself earlier referenced that ideally we would have provincial highways take over the rest of it, because we know it's not just for us, but we will foot the cost for it. Now, the road width is available right now, so that makes it easy. It makes it easy to plan and easy to talk about. But who are we doing this for? Are we doing it for ourselves, for the development community? Are we doing it so that we can put a rubber stamp on it and say, look at us, we made a nice road network, even though it doesn't work for you and it literally takes you in the opposite direction of where you're going? Or are we going to serve the people of Colwood? I know where I stand, and this is a hill I'm prepared to die on. I believe that advancing Metchosin Road, starting those studies so that we know what it will cost. Even if it becomes prohibitive, we can change back. If it's priority 1 and we find out that, you know what, it is just too much, we can't do it, well, then at least we've got something to go to the public with and say, yeah, we wanted to, but we couldn't. But if we don't do it, we're doing every resident of Colwood that travels by automobile and many that travel by other routes a disservice. So vote as you will, but this to me is as important as all of those other initiatives around healthcare and safety and every other vote we've taken in 3 years. Because we make this vote today the way I think it's going to go, well, next council will be the ones to decide when they're going to do something about it. And we know what'll happen. They'll take office. It's going to be a year or two. They'll keep with the existing plan while they get their feet on the ground. Maybe 3-4 years from now, they'll be having a meeting like this one. So I, for one, am going to vote with the residents of Colwood that need us to take action now.
Thanks very much. I'm just going to wrap this up myself with just final comments here. First of all, I have a question to staff. The triggers, there's these things called triggers right now, which will dictate when we have to widen whatever, be it VMP, Latoria, be it Metchosin, triggers. And I heard these numbers 60%. But, you know, that's one thing that I find very confusing, to tell you the truth. A 60% build out of what though? Because when they were talking about these triggers, that was before they approved the 2850 homes down in Beachlands. So is it 60% of what was approved there plus what Royal Bay has done? What is that trigger? Can someone, that's question number 1 that I have, because I don't understand that myself. Want to take a crack at it, John?
think I have to say yes to that. Um, there isn't any finite trigger. I think the planning back in 2018, and you're referring, I think, to the joint memo where it was talking about 70% will do this, and at 40% you should look at this, and at 90% you'll do that. And those are aspirational thoughts. And really what happened there is they just projected, and they had some data, didn't have the traffic model like we had now. And what they did is they basically said, let's look at a 20-year time frame. And then let's, because it's 20 years, let's make each year 5%. So when it talks about 60% triggering, they were just making an assumption that development would occur on a linear scale. And back then, your development wasn't as exacerbated as it is now. I mean, we're developing quicker now than I think you thought you were going to back in 2015, 2017, when this planning was happening. So when it says 60%, it just literally meant from this time today, 12 years later, you'll likely need something like this. Now that we have a model, what it really does for us is it tells us where we should likely go and when based on the traffic of today. Because now we have the ability through the CRD to count traffic. We've bought our own traffic counters so we can put traffic counters up in Carindale and take a look at volume and speed and do those kinds of things and be proactive. There's different things we can do. There's no doubt Metchosin has a lot of work to be done on it. But ultimately, we're probably going to do the Taj Mahal of it all. It won't be in my lifetime. I was just going to wonder if it might be in Joshua's lifetime. We'll eventually get to all of it. But in the meantime, we are putting in place tools to allow us to figure out where to go next. And some of the things we're doing right now, for instance, is as part of the TMP process, we saw that we're probably going to have conversations. So staff has started down the path of looking at conceptual plans with regards to road designs on Metchosin. But what I'm hearing tonight, which can certainly impact costs, which is one of the things that's going to be a big driver on this, and timing, is what will the new cross section look like? If council really wants to change the aspirational cross section with regards to putting people on bikes and feeling safe when you're walking, if you're going to change those widths that create those kinds of feelings, that will definitely change costs. That will allow us to perhaps not take as much land. So there's some real decisions that council is going to have to make with regards to what the cross section looks like, which will help us determine how much land we will need. And then we can put cost to it. So if we're just going to aspirationally say, let's fit something into a 20-meter corridor, we're not sure what it's going to look like, then we can go down that path, but we won't be able to give you really good costs. But we will be able to tell you what you can fit in that envelope and see where it can go. And then from there, you can decide where's your first piece, where's your second piece, where's your third piece, and then just move down that path. So we can give you some ballparks. But getting something in front of you in the next few months, I don't see how we do that. I mean, we'd have to go by a couple of financial policies with regards to hiring staff, have to hire consultants. It'd be a lot of work to try to give you some real hard numbers with regards to what it would look like, how it'd be designed. Survey work does not take a week. That takes a lot of time to get survey work done. So we're better off, I think, if we want to go down some kind of path, get a width that we think we want to be aspirational towards, and then see what that looks like. We already know we're going to need a light at Lagoon. We're going to need, improvements at the Wishart intersection. We're going to need a light at Painter. We've already have a corridor study that basically tells us we're probably going to need 4 lanes from Wishart to Sooke on Metchosin. And then we also know we're going to have all kinds of 3-laning in Metchosin. So we are kind of moving in that direction as a side project as part of the TMP. I do apologize about the TMP, but we're bringing in stakeholders. We've had multiple public engagement sessions. The meeting in September 8th will tell you all of the work we've done to date with regards to stakeholders, public input, and the next phase of the TMP. So I hope that helps you a little bit with regards to your trigger.
Okay, so the second question I have, which has got me highly concerned, is we're collecting DCCs for this right now as we speak, correct? For the roads, for the road widening. And finance can maybe answer this question the best, but there's, if we were to do this tomorrow, we couldn't afford to do this. What my big concern is fiscally, we've got a very expensive, well, I guess it's in the paper, $103 million RCMP station. We have a public works building to build. We have continuation of debt on sidewalks right now. We have many other things in the books right now. My concern is that I just did some swags based on rough order magnitude, they weren't even class E estimates that you put to widening Machosen, widening VMP. We can't service that debt. That's my best guess. We're not gonna have, we're gonna exceed the 25% of our revenue to service debt. That limit. And that's me just doing it on the back of a cigarette package sort of thing. So that concerns me. And I just feel that, it was a great presentation put on by Council Ward, but I'm just worried about the money situation right now, because that's a big issue in my own head. We've got to be sustainable. We can't keep freaking taxing taxpayers right now because, it's unsustainable as it is right now. So I'm very concerned about that right now. And the other thing that I would like to say, just from a 40,000 foot level, I go to Victoria twice a week right now to attend CRD stuff, twice a week at different times. I have no problems, and I live off Victoria. So I always go to Google and then it tells me the best way to go. Lately, it's been going down Wishart up to Machosen Road, onto Souk and down that way. That's what it's been telling me. Sometimes it tells me to go down all the way down VMP up to through Langford and to get onto the Trans-Canada. Sometimes it tells me to go down Machosen Road. It depends on accidents and all that stuff. But I depend on that. But you know what? In all the time, in my 3 years as mayor right now, I have never, ever, to tell you the truth, got stuck on Colwood roads per se. I get stuck since I hit Souk Road. I can be backed up as far as the Dairy Queen, trying to get through there, right? From people trying to merge onto the Trans-Canada, or I get stuck in Langford. We've been parked, we've been backed up as far as the RCMP station on some mornings. It's terrible. It's not getting through Colwood. It's the frustration I know with drivers right now. To me, is the frustration is when we hit these log jams on Souk Road and VMP to get into Victoria. That's where the bottlenecks are right now, to me. And I'm doing this anecdotally. I just know that. I know exactly where I'm going to be waiting. Happens every day. Every day I drive down there. So I guess that's not solving. We can spend $50 million on Machosen. We can spend 25 million widening VMP. That's not solving this thing called the Galway Crawl. I'm just being pragmatic about this. And whether we do, it is a high priority to me, though. I do realize that, and I understand that it is a high priority. But I don't want to goof this one up. I really don't want to goof this one up. And from what I remember just on the workshop, seeing the modeling, I know it was just them playing around with it, but it clearly showed to me that 3 lanes was a really optimal solution for Machosen Road. I remember seeing that. I just thought, wow, that's smart. The turning lanes all over, right? So you got traffic flowing. And then the potential, I think you showed VMP not widened and VMP widened, right? And it looked like that was a good thing to do too. So doing both those things, and I know the cost of just 3 laning was half of what 4 laning, because it was a suggestion of 4 laning. I'm just recalling this right now. And so, but like I said, I guess the bottom line is that I'm just where I'm debating this now. I just listened to what everyone has said here. My worry is that I don't want to go off half-cocked and just make the wrong decision based on, we just got to get something done really fast here. when the situation is, we're still not solving where the bottlenecks are. We're not solving them. I've made this point down at the CRD. You know, we're not solving bottlenecks. We can do all, spend, you know, potentially $75 million on widening roads here in Colwood, but it's not, we're gonna still get complaints because we're not solving bottlenecks right now. That's just me speaking. And that's why I think there's a priority, but is that priority tomorrow's problem, or is it 2 years from now, 3 years, 4 years? I don't know. I'm just being a pragmatist about this. But I understand how this is emotionally gets everyone going here. I do understand it. Because, you know, my frustration is that I honestly believe that we were gonna finalize this TMP in this term. We've been talking about draft. And let's get the debate finished and let's get that thing finalized. But I want to do it right. I really want to do it right and have a proper criteria to prioritize using, you know, all the tools that we have available, which includes our traffic model, which not everyone's had. We have not been together in public, and I'd like to get this up to the public so they can see it working too, so that we can do actual proper prioritization with a lot of public input. That's important to me. That's how I see the world right now. That's why I agree with what was put forward to us right now. But then again, so I just want to get clarified right now. So, Mr. Johnson, what do you see as the deliverables for what you're going to deliver on September 8th? I want to really understand this right now.
The work plan to finish the TMP. So here are the dates, here's what we've assigned, here's the process. And look for opportunities for council to say, yeah, we want to speed that up, or we don't want that component in there. I mean, that's the intention to bring it to you, to make sure that it meets your expectations to get this completed within the term.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's my comments. There were not questions really per se, but comments. Councillor Jordison, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my concern is just listening to yourself, Mr. Mayor, is the prioritizing and doing work on Latoria to 4-lane that or what have you. That concerns me that if we don't prioritize Metchosin Road and we keep going down another path to the road to nowhere, because Langford has no interest in 4-laning their section, that we're just wasting money and we're wasting time. And I think you mentioned that it'd be great to tell the public or show the public this simulation that we saw. Well, we haven't been able to see it since we saw it that one time. The next time something came back totally different, a total different direction from what we saw. And I saw it with my own eyes. Councillor Ward saw it. You saw it. We all saw it. And it showed that that was the right way to do the modeling. I really feel that Metchosin Road may be significant in cost to some degree, but I also feel that there's ways to make it cheaper, and there's ways to make it to work better, so that we don't have sidewalks with poles, hydro poles in them and things like that. There's ways to maneuver the street and to make this fit. So I'm just concerned if we don't make this a priority that's what's going to happen. We'll just go down another road, and we're not going to meet any of Colwood. This is a huge infrastructure, is a huge, and moving traffic is a huge issue for people in Colwood. And I don't think that we've been doing a good job at trying to get ahead of that. So that's just my concern. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Just very quickly, because I really hear your concerns about the costs. But I think if we have a plan, which this motion would make a priority in the transportation master plan, how we implement it may be far more incremental. But once we have a vision and a concept for the entire area or part of the area. Maybe it's, part of the area to begin with. It may be segmented. I think the closer you get to Souk Road, the greater the needs may be. But those pinch points and those areas that are slowing down traffic can be addressed with a plan that allows for the services that need to be in place and for the telephone poles not to be in the middle of the sidewalk and all those other bits where, maybe the first part of it is creating extra lane width closer to Machosen Road so that people can actually get on and off the roadway, even though several cars are waiting at the light. Um, and when you're looking for data, if you go to Google Maps and you look at the number of trips per day on the road, Machosen Road is slaughtering all those other roads right now and functioning fairly well, except for peak times. There are certainly some problem areas. It certainly is not helpful, a lot of the congestion spots, but there are ways. And when you look at the data that I can see on Google Maps, I can see that there is thousands more trips per day happening on Machosen Road than there is on VMP.
Thank you very much. Just a last question to engineering. So you guys were playing with all the data, the various scenarios. So it's going to help me make a decision on how I vote right now. But 3-lane Machosen, is that a bigger bang for the buck for the dollar immediately over doing anything else that we're going to do? Professional opinion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can't give you a factual opinion on that. I think at the end of the day, if you said to me, where would I put my first couple of dollars? I would probably put them on Machosen because Latoria and VMP are functioning well. Like VMP will have to be done someday, but that's not a 5-year project. Maybe 10 years, 15 years. It's a ways out. It'll have to happen. But Latoria will have to happen. But I think Latoria is a long ways out. I think what's really key, and I think it was Councillor Day that suggested that having a plan with regards to land acquisition, like Latoria, for instance, even if we want to go to say 3 lanes on Latoria, the creek has to be moved. So, we need to get some of that rights of way. So same with Machosen. If we're going to alter the cross section, change the widths of the sidewalks, change the widths of the bike lanes, and just go to 3 lanes, then we can start making plans with regards to land acquisition and whether we need any. Because currently what we're doing on Machosen is trying to take 26 meters when developers show up. Just like on Souk, we're taking 30 meters when we're on Souk. Souk's a pretty easy one. You've referred to the crawl. That eventually will have to have a lot of work done on it. But again, that's 15 years out plus. Machosen, I think you could do a lot of work with some left turn lanes, some storage lanes, those types of things. So we can put a plan in place to start that. I do like the idea, and you mentioned it earlier about DCCs. We do need to update our DCC bylaw. In doing that, that'll help fund some of these projects. I do get a little bit nervous with regards to thinking about grants, because what I've heard tonight is we're skewing a little more towards traffic, helping out the traffic than we are mode shift. And most grants nowadays tend to skew towards mode shift than they do towards traffic demand management. So I don't think grants are where we're going to find our funding. It's going to be DCCs and our own internal funding. But if you told me where should we start spending some money, I would say probably left turn lanes and storage lanes on Machosen. That's not a fact. That is an opinion.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other discussion? So we do have a motion on the table. Can you post it? Oh, it's a long one. Does everyone have it in front of them? Okay, we all have it in front of us. Right. Discussion. I'm gonna call the question. Oh, sorry, Councilor Ward.
been listening to John, and I appreciate your opinion, John, and your concerns, Mr. Mayor. And I think it's important to, obviously this is a passionate subject for me, but I think when concessions need to be made, they need to be made. And so what I'd like to do is propose an amendment to remove incorporating the project from the 5-year financial plan and the comment around seek funding through federal and provincial infrastructure programs, because that can wait. That can be a phase 2. I think the objective for me here today is to identify this as a priority, to not so much identify it, but to cement the fact that we already know it's a priority, and initiate that corridor study and preliminary designs. And if that is simply some collector lane components, left turn lanes to begin, whatever it might look like, let the experts make the decisions on that. But remove the overarching financial concern about putting this into the payment plan, if you will, right now. So on the very last component where it says, and that staff be directed to, I would say remove bullet point number 2 and bullet point number 3. What that would leave is the directive to initiate a corridor study and preliminary design in 2025 and engage with residents, First Nations, emergency services, and regional stakeholders throughout the planning process. That doesn't have a definitive timeline on it. There are components like engaging with residents already underway. We could continue that. You may not engage with First Nations until a later stage, or emergency services might be cursory discussion, but that would remove, I think, the overarching pressure to find the dollars today, but it would get us moving in the right direction. So if that's okay, I'd like to put that amendment forward.
Yeah, we could just do a friendly amendment on that. Who was the seconder? So, okay, is that okay with you?
Thank you.
We'll just push a friendly amendment. Okay, I am gonna call, I like that. I feel more comfortable with that already. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? And oppose? Okay, Councillor Jensen opposes. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Ward, for taking the initiative to push this through. That's good. Got an outcome, I think, that we're all satisfied with. You can introduce the next speaker, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Josh Andrews, our engineering lead capital projects, has a report in front of you called the Sewer Conversion Strategy. The recommendation is that staff be directed to conduct a survey of Colwood residents regarding sewer expansion and their connection to the sewer collection system, and that staff be directed to create an explanatory video and proceed with the public engagement strategy, and that further that staff report the survey results back to council for consideration and subsequent direction in the fall.
Thank you. In May, staff presented the sewer expansion options report, which is appended to tonight's report, which outlined some background information and considerations for a sewer expansion program. The recommendation from that was to conduct a survey of the community to gauge interest on sewer expansion program. And at that meeting, council gave direction to have the survey professionally reviewed and come back with an updated survey. So staff have done that. The survey was reviewed by R.A. Malatest and Associates, a professional survey company, and they suggested a bunch of changes which we made to the survey. And so tonight we're back with the same recommendation to go for a survey. And with the survey itself is of course attached in one of the amendments or one of the attachments. And staff is here to answer any other questions that council may have about sewer or expansion. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Josh. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my key concerns that I previously raised about this are as follows. The city doesn't have sufficient funds to expand sewer service community-wide in the near term, and that is something we already know. And surveying residents now may raise hopes of expansion that is unrealistic, and conducting a survey may be a poor use of limited staff time and budget without a clear plan or a funding model. I think a more responsible approach is to first complete scenario modeling, incorporate sewer infrastructure needs into the 5-year financial plan, and prepare preliminary development cost charge DCC estimates. I believe the valuable information that has been recently provided to council for understanding of the sewer capacity available would be useful information for the public as well. I'd like to see something like that information highlighted as a news story and then put on the city's website with regular updates so the public can see and understand the current sewer situation. I just think it's silly to go out and ask things to the community that we have no real control over. We have no money for this. So why are we wasting our time on it? If people, residents want to know, they could just ask what's going on with the sewer. We can provide that education. And I did have a motion I wanted to suggest, but I can wait to do that till after.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordison, Councillor Day, please.
Thank you. So I've tried very hard to couch this in the best possible terms. That I really think it is up to council to be clear about this. At the end of the last term, significant additions were made to the number of homes proposed in Colwood, with the addition of Royal Beach, and also with the expansion of the development in Royal Bay, which went from the original densities proposed in the Master Development Agreement from 1991 and 2001. Originally, we envisioned 2,800 homes, and that has now tripled. And that has left us with the question of when we reserved our capacity in the sewage treatment plant, we did it based on financial limitations. We recognized at that time that we had limits on what our taxpayers could afford. And we also knew that we were reserving sufficient capacity for the developments that we knew of at that time. The CRD came back and asked us to reserve a greater capacity, which was not accomplished. So our present rate of development in the last 2 years has been significantly larger than in years prior. And our development has increased, and the number of people opting to join into the sewer system has increased. And we apparently have not done the best job in ensuring that those new participants in the sewer system paid the full amount to cover the costs of joining. And it is both expensive and scarce. We don't know a plan for the future for additional capacity, but we do know that additional capacity will come at a premium price. So I think it's very much the wrong time to be asking our residents to buy into something, because it's not the first time that we have talked sewers, and some residents who wanted sewers have been unable to get access to sewers simply because they were too far away from the resource to be able to make it affordable for them to join. To ask people to buy into a sewer system with an unknown delivery date, I think is political suicide, in my opinion. So I really, I have watched for a long time. I sat on the sewer advisory committee in the beginning. I do understand the sewers. I do know where they go and what size they were put in and where our shortfalls are. And we haven't had any member of staff be able to address those questions with any assurity. So I sure don't want to mislead the public in Colwood that they could potentially join the sewer and have that set it and forget it mindset, because it just doesn't work that way. And it's not realistic to suggest that we can afford to do that. And nor do we even have an estimate that we could provide to them of what those costs would be. So I feel very strongly that I don't wish to deny anyone access to sewers, but we need a plan in order to provide them. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm hoping that this sewer survey does shed some light on how many people are out there that do truly want to join the system. And as I recall from the discussion, it was a lot, it was about steering those people on how to move to an LSA for a street or two that wants to get together and move in that direction. That's the kind of information that I want to hear back, not, you know, not, I'm quite sure no one's in favor of us promoting a private utility and spending hundreds of millions of dollars or somebody. That wasn't what I was hoping to take from this. It was, I'd like to hear from our house, our local households and our local families on whether their wish, if this is a resounding no, forget it, then let's put this to bed for another decade. If there is some keen interest, I would like to know that. And then we can steer these groups in the right direction to staff to help have them form their own LSA and move and connect to sewer. And that does support a lot of our goals that we're trying to achieve in this community, whether it be environmental or, small family homes, what do they call it, the SSMUH, whatever that stands for. It escapes me, but thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Grove?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also concur with that opinion from Councillor Jansen. I'm wanting to know more and better at updating the knowledge. We have this old referendum that I know I moved to Colwood and people are already referring to it, and it's sort of like a done deal. So now we're far enough away. Maybe it's time to boot that again. And one thing is the past few years, I've heard more people, some on my street, who've expressed frustration about the sewer and trying to have access to it because they want to increase the density of their lot. So this sewering obviously enables this. In conjunction with that idea, I'm just trying to think about the fact that those that benefit now from sewer generally are large developers in a lot of it is greenfield development that is open to 6-story structures, etc. But individual small potential developers are stuck with the fact that they can't get at it. The cost to bring the sewer in is just debilitating. If someone does want to put it for 4 units on a lot, they can't do it. So I would be thinking of also the homes, the thousands of homes we have that are aging, built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that are looking at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 septic upgrades. And I also look at this again and bring up my street, or in my neighborhood, the homes that have a fair number of people living in them. And these are not, again, registered necessarily, but there's a certain demand on the system. I think the septic systems that they are using are stretched. I think this would give an opportunity to find out more if there's more available. The idea, I think we discussed it at the sewer workshop. We had the idea of having the districts that we, I think, are referenced on the survey, and the notion that community groups could form to try to expand the service in a way that isn't going to stretch the debt load in the same way. I don't fully understand that commitment to debt and how that the homeowner's commitment to the payment presumably makes a difference. Anyway, I think I support this idea of a survey for that reason, to update what we have and to allow hopefully smaller developers access to a service that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Just a quick question before I let Councillor Jordison speak for the second time. Can you just remind me, are you going to be able to capture this by neighborhood so you'll understand, if it's Colway Creek, if it's Kelly Road, you will be able to identify that, correct?
Yes, the intention is to have them identify which zone on those
Okay,
zones.
that's right. by
So
zone.
that we could try to amalgamate that, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Councillor Jordison, second time.
Thank you, Mayor. Josh, I just had a question. Is the information you're trying to gather, is it intended to tell you perhaps how to reallocate the priority of the map of the sewer system based on groups wanting it versus, is that the intent?
That's not the primary intent. However, depending on how much and who responds, we could look at it through that lens. The number one priority would just be to, as Councilor Jansen referenced, get a feel of what percentage of the community does want to connect. Because as you say, we have a big uptick in people calling in, asking to, and then being told it's not really a feasible possibility for a single homeowner to connect when the sewer's down the street. So if you can get a better idea of the percentage of the population that does want to connect and want to see a sewer expansion program, council might be in a better position to make some further decisions on looking at in more detail the funding models that were previously presented and even maybe going forward to consider something larger like a full referendum, let's say.
Thank you. So the last information that we received from staff was a graph that clearly showed if we continue at producing 600 homes a year, that we could be potentially be looking at 90% like needing 90% of using up our sewer system by 2029. It's 2025, people. Like, we don't have a plan to pay for sewer beyond that. If that's what happens, it's not in our budget. Like, I don't understand why people aren't realizing that this is a big issue. This isn't like, who wants sewer? Sign up tomorrow. Our last council, the previous council gave our sewer away when we tripled the density at the beachlands. I'm calling the attention to that there is an issue here. It's in the data. And I think that we need to be proactive on it. And I think we need to be smarter with what we're deciding here. I really don't think that residents are going to take the time to do a survey for not getting anything. I just think it's really inappropriate to waste our time going out to residents at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dave?
Thank you. Josh, I'm just wondering, are you providing any cost estimates to people when you're asking them if they want to buy into the sewer system?
Yes, I believe in the survey itself, we give some ideas of, we ask actually how much people would be willing to sort of pay. Those numbers are based on the approximate cost of each of the zones. Because the zone, depending on which zone some zones are more expensive to connect to than others. So that's the idea behind getting an idea of, what people would be willing to pay. As I think Councillor Grove suggested, replacing a septic system could be $50,000 or more. And some of the zones are less than that, and some of the zones are more than that. So again, a specific financial model to figure out how we'd like to go about paying for that, likely an LAS model, but whether that's a single global LAS to average the cost across everyone or individual LASs for each of the 58 zones, that would be a further discussion at another time after this survey comes back. Let's say 99% of people want to connect, maybe we have a further discussion. If 0% want to connect, then we don't have to move forward.
And The other concern that I have is whether or not we're setting ourselves up for having to choose between approved developments and existing residences who may want to sign up. So we're very quickly approaching the allotted capacity and potentially exceeding it. And we don't have any, I certainly haven't seen anything about future potential increases to that amount. And if we are going to put ourselves in a position, currently, when we last discussed this, the director of planning was saying that it's on a first come, first served basis. And so, uh, who do we want to service with this capacity? Do we want to potentially leave the south half of Royal Bay empty because we've used the sewer capacity for residences somewhere else? Or are we going to have half of Beachlands completed and half of South Royal Bay completed? Or how are you planning to deal with it when we have more subscription than capacity?
Thank you for the question. At the point where we're projecting right now, based on our actual flow, I don't have the chart that Councilor Jordanson referenced earlier. But the actual flow rate projection based on our current increase of flows, not the projected density, but the actual flow increase we've seen shows that we're at 90% capacity allocation in 2040, 2037, something like that. And that's why we have to track our actual flows so carefully. But to your point, you know, when we get to the 90% allocation, that is when we approach the CRD to discuss procuring more allocation at the CRD. At that point, the CRD, as we know and have discussed before, they do have the ability to expand the McLaughlin treatment plant to another 15 megaliters. We don't know what the CRD plans to do when to give us that additional capacity. We're very likely to be third or fourth. There's 3 or 4 other municipalities that are using their allocation at a higher rate than we are. So that discussion and the CRD's future plans are very likely to be discussed before Colwood's in the same situation. And am I missing anything?
I just am concerned that we are going to wait till we're at 90% before we make a plan.
2028.
And I'm also looking at the core area wastewater capacity allocations from 2024. And Colwood was reported at 59.8% in that of our reserved flows. Other municipalities, as Esquimalt was at 62.5. that sort of thing.
I'm going to interject here. I know that the discussion's already starting on the second treatment plant now. And they will be in earnest by 2028, going full at it. They know that they have to have a solution by 2038.
Well, it may be sooner than that, the way things are going for Colwood, but I would like to have that information relayed to us through the CRD if possible. Thank you.
I just need a clarification, Mr. Rosenberg. I keep on hearing this number and I don't know where the hell it comes from. What's this 600 homes a year? That must be a different municipality than ours because do we do 600 homes a year or are we doing?
I haven't seen the data that says that. I do believe the data that they're using might be approved homes.
Yeah.
Based on flow rates, we haven't seen 600 based on actual sewer flow rates. Our building permits don't get to 600 with regards to occupancy, but I just haven't seen it.
So I don't know that. So when I've asked every year right now, what are the number of occupancy permits we've had, Like last year was a banner year for us, right? If I believe, and that was what, 300?
I think last year was higher. Byron has that number, but I thought it was high fours if I'm being, but
Okay.
I don't know.
But I know
the
we're
actual
way
number.
down so
Yeah.
far this year. That's how I base it on is occupancy permits.
Mayor?
Yeah, sure. Okay, sorry.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Yep. One of the things we do is we do a building permit report that shows the number of permits issued, the number that have been finalized. We're going to bring those numbers to council on a quarterly basis. So
Okay,
you can
thank
keep
you.
track of them throughout the year. You can see the number of commercial, the number of residential, all in a omnibus report to council so that you can keep on track of that. So you don't have to go through the different various areas that you do now, linking up CRD data, linking up our data. So it comes directly from building permits, and then you can see the number of building permits that are still outstanding and when potentially they could be coming on stream. So I think it will make the numbers easier to clarify by bringing that to council on a quarterly basis.
Okay, thank you very much. Council Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel like this discussion's gone a little off the rails. We are digging into talk about sewer capacity and development, and I would like to bring it back to the fact that what we're talking about is a survey whose title is Understanding Community Expectations for Sewer Service. We're not here today to determine if there's capacity and so forth. And I would draw back to the earlier agenda item 7.1 when I was talking about Metchosin Road. The decision at hand wasn't about can we afford to build this today? It was let's analyze it and determine if it's the right move. So I would again draw back on my electoral experience, as brief as it was, that sewer surprised me as a major topic of Colwood residents. I didn't know, to be honest. I confess, I'm blessed with sewer access, relatively new build, life is easy. But, it came up time and time again when I went door to door through different residents at Colwood, that, different neighborhoods, sorry, of Colwood, that sewer was a major issue. And to me, knowledge is power. And I think quantifying what Colwood residents' expectations are is the goal here. It isn't about whether we can or can't do it. We could accept today that we can't do it. I'm fine. I'm not going to debate that. But I would like to understand what residents' expectations are. I would go back to Councillor Day's initial point, though, that we should guard against creating false expectations. I think the wording of the survey should very much make it clear, both in the online platform and mail out, that this is simply to gauge public interest. This is not a plan. There is no timeline, whatever the wording is, to ensure that we aren't setting people up to think that, okay, if I take the time to go through this, I'll connect. But I don't think this is the appropriate subject to kind of go off into can we or can't we, when is a sewage plant coming? I think there is an appropriate time and place to have that discussion. I thought we had a workshop coming up or a meeting on that. I could be wrong. But I do think that's a discussion, absolutely, that has to happen. But this is really about understanding public opinion. And I go back to what Councillor Jansen said, which I would just be interested in knowing. I would be interested in knowing if 90% of survey respondents want access to sewer and are willing to pay for it. I'd be interested in knowing if most people don't care and we can shelve this topic in terms of private residential connections for the foreseeable future. So to me, it's just about understanding the knowledge as long as we guard against building false expectations.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jensen?
Thank you, Your Worship. Some very serious statements have been made here tonight, and now I just wonder if my sewer's going to fail in 4 or 5 years. And I just wonder if we can circle back, because I know Mr. Rosenberg has the facts on this and is very eloquent in the way he presents them. I wonder if we can hear from him about the flows and the number of years. And I think we should alleviate any concerns that might be out there raised by this discussion.
Yeah, I think we're getting off track here again. So he did put out a great email and it was circulated to all council. I don't know if you've seen it.
So beyond that, statements have been made here tonight that have gone out publicly on the World Wide Web, Your Worship. Seems like there's a lot of need to clarify.
Oh, you're talking about the flow rates. and all
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I don't have it here in front of me because we're talking about a survey, but I think we should close the loop on this.
Yeah. No, I don't want to go there. I really don't, because we're just getting off track. Let's go back to the recommendation that we're talking about. We did get sidetracked a little bit here. My fault. Okay,
I'll leave it with you, your
Cobra.
worship, just to
And,
handle.
I'd like to get back on track and talk about the survey itself. So is there any further discussion, on the survey itself? Because, okay, so, I'm gonna have to cut you guys off after this round here. Counselor Jordison?
My concern again about the survey is I heard earlier this evening that we wanted priority work put into Machosen Road and the TMP, and here we're gonna go off and do a survey on sewers that we know that we can't provide to residents. We do not have the capacity. And the information is clear in that table that I was promised would be put up on the website so that the public could understand our sewer situation. So I was hoping that that would happen. But the table clearly shows that if we build out 300 homes a year at up to 600, that we could essentially be needing being at 90% of our capacity at 2029 at 600 builds a year versus 300, which would take us into the 2030, 40, what the other number is. I can't remember that number. But it clearly shows that if we do build more, that we will reach this capacity at 90% sooner. We all have this information. It was provided to all of us. That to me is a concern. And that is why I feel that it is a waste of time asking what people think. Like it's not important. It's not significant today. That's all I'll say.
Good, thanks. Thank you. Counselor Olson, then Counselor Day.
I'm gonna keep this really brief because I actually think that we are way off topic here, and I believe that we did actually have a council meeting where we supported the idea. And I think we may have actually asked staff to draft a survey to collect information about whether or not our residents wanted to have access to sewer. We initiated that, I believe, and we supported it at the time, and there was a draft to come back. So unless I'm completely out to lunch, I don't always participate in the circle because it's frustrating for me. Like we asked for this, it is here. We're specifically just looking for information to collect data. We're not talking about flows. We're not supposed to be talking about flows today. We're just supposed to be specifically speaking. I see the face that I'm getting and I don't appreciate it in chambers. But I would like to just move on, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Counselor Day.
Thank you. I don't appreciate any of the tone, but it's frustrating to me. I've been here for a long time saying the same things. The recommendation was that we wanted to see the survey before it went out. We didn't say we wanted a survey. Staff suggested a survey. We said we wanted to see it before it went out. I want to make sure that there is a price tag associated to what we propose to our residents is a viable option. I understand that if you go into a gift shop that sells very expensive things, it's easy to say you'd love to have one. But when they tell you what it's actually going to cost to have it, that's when you make the real decision. And currently we don't have any costs. And I'm frustrated beyond belief that I've provided over and over again the numbers, where they came from, specifically from CRD reports and City of Colwood reports, and exactly where they were listed, that it still can't get any confirmation of the numbers. And I've been told that I'm wrong to my face, when in fact, the numbers are in your reports. I didn't produce those reports, you people did. And I am very, very frustrated that we would mislead the public into believing this pie in the sky sewer scheme. Thank you. I'm sorry, but I think I have to go.
Thank you very much. Will someone around the table would like to, make a motion to the recommendation? Recommendation second. Okay, Counselor Jensen, Counselor, Ford, or pardon me, Counselor Grove. And, any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? So that's Counselor Jordison and Counselor Day. Okay, we shall move on. There's nothing I can do. I think I'm gonna take a recess here, 4-minute recess for a health break. We'll just get into bylaws. That won't take us long. Please. Lost two counselors here, so. Counselor Jordison and Counselor Day. We shall come out of recess and we'll get into bylaws. Marcy, over to you, please.
Thank you, your worship. So under bylaws, we have bylaw number 2076, which is Colwood Sewer Utility Bylaw, for adoption, please.
Okay, mover and seconder. Call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next.
Bylaw number 2080, strengthening the provisions for aggressive and dangerous dogs, for adoption.
Okay, Council Grove and Council Jensen. Discussion. Call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Next.
We have sewer local area service enlargement amendment bylaws, all going for first, second, and third reading. Bylaw 2066, Colwood Central Sewer for 2357 Souk Road. Bylaw 2069, Colwood Main Sewer for 2357 Souk Road. Bylaw 2078, Colwood Main Sewer for 2266 Souk Road. Bylaw number 2079, Colwood Central Sewer for 2266 Souk Road. Bylaw 2081, Colwood Main Sewer for 2437 Souk Road. And bylaw 2082 for Colwood Central Sewer for 2437 Souk Road.
Thank you very much. Mover and seconder, please. Council Ward and Council Wilson. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries.
Last one is sewer local area service enlargement amendment bylaws, both going for adoption. Bylaw 2074, Colwood Main Sewer for 3325 Machosen Road, and bylaw 2075, Colwood South Sewer for 3325 Machosen Road.
Can I use the same movers and seconders? Okay, thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion for adjournment, please. There you go. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.